You've been framed. Russia, Pops discovered, is a very big country. You can drive hundreds of miles without seeing another soul, and what's more to the point of this story is you can go just as far and not see a garage selling diesel, and what an oasis is to a camel, diesel is to a truck. The truck and trailer had 3 fuel tanks, 2 on the truck, which held 60 gallons each, and 1 on the trailer that held 200 gallons. That seems a lot, but on a good day the truck would do 9 miles to the gallon, and so when a garage appeared on the horizon, everyone would breathe a sigh of relief. On this particular afternoon, a garage was sighted, and the truck sensing diesel turned off the road and headed for the pumps. The garage forecourt was a typical of many in Russia, about the size of a football pitch. The kiosk/shed was only the size of a very small caravan and was about 45 yards away from some very dilapidated looking pumps. Pops tried all of them and none of them worked, so he sent Marcus off to the shed to find out what was happening. After 15 minutes he came back. You have to pay first before the pumps are switched on. How can we know how much to pay until the tanks are full? Ask him that, Marcus. Off Marcus went again. His Russian was excellent. He could say spasiba perfectly like a native, just not like a native Russian. This time, 20 minutes later, Marcus came trotting back. Think the man says you just have to guess, said Marcus with that boyish, cheeky smile that still from time to time haunts, bless his Pops. OK, said Pops. Give him as many rubles as you think we need, and this time take Josephine with you. Josephine, with her speaking books, was the team's best interpreter. If anyone was going to save Pops's head exploding, it was going to be Josephine. Half an hour later, Marcus was back. OK, the pumps are switched on, Marcus informed Pops triumphantly. Pops tried again, but still nothing happened, apart from one dim light flickering on and off one of the pumps. All the rest were as dead as a dodo. Ah, at last that will do, said Pops, and taking the pump nozzle off the pump and unscrewing the cap on the first tank, he placed the nozzle into the neck of the tank, and then nothing, not even one drop of diesel. Now what? Asked Pops, getting even more frustrated. He called for Graham. Graham, please come and fix this pump. When anything breaks, get set on fire. Yes, the old Bedford's electrics have in the past gone on fire while Pops was actually driving. Get soaking wet or just won't work. Graham is the genius who gets it all going again. Graham jumped out of the truck with his little bag of tools and set to work on the pump. It always amazed Pops how with such few tools, Graham could make anything work, from a microphone to a generator. Pops was convinced it was God's anointing on him, just like Bezalel in the Old Testament, whom God filled with his spirit of wisdom, understanding and all manner of workmanship, in Genesis 35. 40 minutes later, Graham shouted, OK, Dave, it should go now. So Pops again put the nozzle back in the first tank. Nothing, still no diesel, Pops mumbled, half to himself, half to anybody who was still brave enough to be anywhere near him. We need to tell Marcus to tell the man to switch the pump on back in the shed, Graham told Pops as gently as he could, discerning that Pops could explode at any second. So the rest of the team shouted as loud as they could to Marcus, Tell the man to switch on. In the distance, Marcus was seen disappearing into the shed. Another 10 minutes later he reappeared, waving and shouting, It's on, it's on. Pops tried again, but still nothing. To understand what happened next, to have at least a little sympathy for Pops, you have to appreciate that the team had been away for nearly 3 months, driving over roads and tracks that weren't on any maps, negotiating broken bridges, spending hours and sometimes days dealing with officials, driving over 10 hours a day through 8 time zones, etc., etc. But most of all for Pops, being away from Nana for such a long time was not good for him, and it wasn't good for the rest of the team. Pops, now totally frustrated, took the nozzle out of the fuel tank and started to inspect it, lifting it above his head to have a better look inside. "There's still nothing coming out," he shouted. Then, whoosh, out poured the diesel. In a matter of seconds, Pops was soaked in diesel but didn't move. It was as if his brain had frozen. Still he held the nozzle above his head. Still the diesel poured all over him. Turn it off, yelled Pops, but every time he shouted he got another mouthful of diesel. Dad, please put the nozzle into the tank, shouted Ruth, coming to her dad's rescue. Pops obeyed his daughter, and finally the tank started filling up. The team had by now made a circle round him, trying with all their powers not to start giggling. "Dave, are you okay?" asked Liz, but of course that was the fatal mistake, because as soon as she opened her mouth, torrents of uncontrollable laughter poured out, which only started the rest of the team off. Soon stomachs were being held and tears rolling down cheeks. Only Ruth managed to keep a straight face, and that, she confessed years later to Pops, took an extreme effort of will. Pops making himself a diesel shower went down in orange folklore.